If you're building AI tools or freelancing AI services, you've been here. Perfect discovery call, client was engaged, talking budget, asking about timelines, and then complete silence. Here's why 90% of AI freelancers get ghosted after great calls and the 3 fixes that you can use to prevent it. Let's get in. So deal killer number 1, you made them feel stupid. The scenario is that the client asks you about implementation and immediately you launch into API integrations, data mapping, system architecture, and their eyes start to glaze over, the energy dies, and that's it, you're done for. And why this kills is because nobody wants to feel like the dumbest person in the room. When you overwhelm them with complexity, their brain translates it as, this person thinks I'm incompetent. But there's more than that, right? Their brain also doesn't care about this. Most of the time, you're talking to people who have a specific problem, and they want this problem solved, this urgent pain point. So if you go in there talking about things that they don't understand, the first thing they think about, apart from feeling stupid, is, I don't understand what this person is trying to tell me. I don't understand how this relates to my business pain. And that is why you get ghosted. The real problem is that you think you're showing them expertise, but what they hear is that this is actually just over my head, and they start questioning if they're actually smart enough to work with you. So it's a really simple fix with this. For the first 30 seconds, every technical concept needs to be translated into business impact. So every time you bring up something that somebody needs to talk about from a technical perspective, immediately relate it to something that this business has as a pain or an urgency or something that they need solved. So the wrong approach would be, we'll configure API endpoints to establish bidirectional data synchronization between your CRM and a machine learning pipeline. All of that technical crap that nobody cares about. The right approach would be to think of it like giving your sales team a crystal ball. Right now, they're guessing which leads to prioritize. After we put this system in, it's going to tell them exactly which prospects will buy this month. The technical stuff will happen behind the scenes. And the reason that you do that is because you're leading with their business pain. You're leading with this thing that they can, 1, understand, but 2, they can see the outcome of, the thing that they're going to take home from you helping them. And when you do that, they might even say to you, okay, cool, so how does this work? And then you can dive into the technical stuff if you really need to. But again, I would always keep the technical stuff light, even if they do ask you. Don't go so far into the weeds that you get lost from while you're really there. Because you're there to keep their attention to their pain, because the pain is what gets them to buy. So from an implementation perspective, before every call that you have, write down 3 main technical points of whatever the system is that you work, and then rewrite each one in a way that anyone can understand. So you should be able to speak to the grandmother about this kind of thing. If she could understand the way that you're explaining it, that means that it's fit for any audience. Don't presume that your audience is technical. Always presume that your audience is non-technical and that you can explain it in a way for a non-technical audience to understand. Because even if the people are technical, if you frame it non-technically, they will still understand it because that is universal. So another more advanced thing that you can do, if somebody asks you a technical question, just say, that's an amazing question. Why don't we respond to it in 2 parts? So first, I'll tell you how it relates to your business, and then how we can make it happen behind the scenes and give you all the details that you want. And that way you're setting the expectation to keep them around a lot longer, but always lead with business pain. So then we get to deal killer number 2. You became a vendor, not an advisor. And the scenario is they describe their problem and you immediately jump in there and tell them, oh, we can build you the system. You start shoving things down their throat. But that's a massive problem because you're answering questions they haven't even asked yet. And if you look at it from a vendor perspective, it kills because they compete on price and features. But advisors set the agenda and command premium fees. The moment you start pitching before actually understanding, that just makes you a vendor. And that's far less valuable to somebody who needs business strategy and a solution. So the real problem with this is that they came looking for some form of strategic thought. And as soon as you jump into those solutions, they realize they could get the same thing from any freelancer anywhere, probably on Fiverr, for 80% less because everything is a race to the bottom on that platform. So the simple fix for this is you don't prescribe anything until you've diagnosed. Don't take up all their time. Get a simple list of questions, maybe 3 to 5, maybe 7 at the absolute most, of the most important ROI-based questions that you can think of. Now, the easiest way to do this is to assess who this person is before they jump on the call with you, which you should obviously be doing. You should always research them. And there are only a certain number of finite questions you can ask them for whatever their problem might be. Either way, you'll have some context. And then what I would do is come up with the most important 3 to 5 questions that I can attach to that I can use to diagnose their problems. Because a great doctor diagnoses before he prescribes a lot of shit that doesn't help anyone. So the wrong approach is based on what you told me. We can automate that entire process. That would be the worst way to handle somebody's objection or their question or whatever it is that they come to you with. The right approach is, hold on, before we talk about any solutions here, let me understand something. What processes break down? What does it cost you if that process breaks down? Not just in time, but in missed opportunities, customer frustration, team morale. You want to make sure that you're trying to target different ROI levers that you can piggyback off of in order to get the thing that you want for this business. Because the more problems that you can identify for them, the more pain you can attach to those things, and ultimately the more you can actually charge them. But equally, you're not just going in there to make a whole bunch of money from these people. The better you are at solving their problems, the better you are as coming across as someone who understands their needs, the more likely they are to refer you once you deliver an amazing result. So the process of having this amazing relationship that can last years starts at this very first call. And don't fuck it up by going in there and just saying, I can give you the stuff that you don't really need. So now you might be asking yourself, what kind of questions should I be asking here? And I'm not going to give you a full list because, again, AI can give you this actual list for the company that you're going to reach out to. But a few sample questions that I always use is, what happens when this breaks? If you could wave a magic wand right now, what would be the biggest problem that would magically disappear? What else is affected when whatever system we're talking about fails? What's the cost of doing nothing? How does it impact your ability to scale? Each of these questions unleashes a different avenue for discussion, and it's all based on the 5 levers of ROI, which I speak about in another video on the screen right now. But then one more trick that you can do for this is when they try to jump to solutions, all you do is you bring back the conversation. You are in control of this conversation. I could build you something right now, but I'd probably solve the wrong problem. So can you help me understand the real constraints first? And that will realize that they know, okay, this guy's strategic. He knows his shit. And then you get into asking your questions. And then finally, we get on to deal killer number 3. You let them leave without next steps. Again, massive problem here. So the scenario is you have a great call with someone. They're super engaged. They're asking questions and they're genuinely interested. So you end with, so what do you think? They say, let me think about it. And you never hear from them again. It's one of the most common problems out there. And why this kills is because when you say, let me think about it, it's where deals go to die, because without specific next steps, they return to their busy life. Your conversation gets buried, momentum disappears forever, and they don't even remember your name. You get ghosted like the ginger kid at a birthday party. And the real problem here is that they're not avoiding you because they don't want the solution. They're avoiding you because making the decision feels overwhelming. You didn't give them any next steps. You didn't give them some kind of micro jump to get them closer to their pain point. So they don't know what that next step is. And the fix for this is super simple. You can do something like the micro commitment strategy. Never end a call without a specific next small step. That moves them towards their decision. Pretty straightforward, right? If we look at the wrong approach, again, so what do you think? Does this sound like something you'd want to move forward with? Don't ever do that. The right approach would be, based on what we've discussed, this sounds like exactly what you need. The next step is a quick operational audit to map your current processes. It takes about 2 hours of your time and gives us a blueprint. Can we schedule that for Thursday afternoon? Do you see how simple that is? So the commitment ladder goes something like this: discovery call, operational audit, solution design, pilot project, full implementation. Each step should be small and logical. Never ask for the big decision up front. Think about it from this perspective. You wouldn't go in there to someone who's never met you and say, we're going to automate your entire business and we're going to transform your entire business to make it AI first. They're going to be like, that is insanely overwhelming. We have no idea who we are. We have no established trust with you. And you haven't shown us any form of value that you actually even know what you're talking about yet. Which is why micro strategies are a far better approach. Instead of just selling a tool to someone, first sell them the strategies, get them a roadmap, build them all the way there. Then you sell them some tools and some AI solutions to make them AI first. Then you chuck in some team training and some change adoption so that their users actually use this stuff. And then finally, you offer them a retainer package with some maintenance so that you watch their systems continuously evolve, which is a super important thing because that helps you get retaining income month over month for multiple clients. So you can see it doesn't just help the client when you have micro strategies. It helps you because you have different parts of the same business to sell, which means longer implementations and more recurring revenue that you actually can project because these people are now retained by you. So micro-strategy is the way that you move forward. So what do you do if they hesitate on the next step? You just look at them plainly and you say, what would you need to be true for you to feel confident moving forward to the audit phase? Super simple question. And it will help them uncover some of their hidden beliefs about why they might not trust you or why they think this isn't going to work. And you can frame that however you want. There are tons of different ways that you can frame that exact question. It's all based on your personality and how you actually speak to people. So always put things in your own voice. It's a lot easier for you when you're trying to speak to clients rather than reading someone else's templated approach. But the point being is that if you can help them understand why they're afraid of taking the next step, it helps you dismantle their objections logically. So always try and do that from that perspective. So you made it halfway through the video. Well done, you. And now I want to give you a super simple discovery framework that you can use for every single call that you do, because I've done hundreds of these over my last 12 years of consulting, and it's really a super simple process. There's no need to complicate it. So based on a few of the concepts that we spoke about in the first half of this video, let's look at an implementation checklist that you can do for pre-call, mid-call, and after-call, so that the next time you speak to someone, they don't end up ghosting you. So before the discovery call, now again, you've either reached out to these people or they've reached out to you. Either way, you know who you're going to be speaking to, which means the most important thing you can do for any discovery call is research. And you can do that with AI now. It can be automated. We're not getting into that in this video, but the point being is that you can do super deep research to find out about the company, the person you're going to be speaking to, and what their pain points might actually be based on some criteria that you've seen online. Now, the reason that this is important is because, one, if they have a valid pain point that is displayed publicly, you know they have some form of urgency, and urgency helps push a buyer towards actually buying something. So the more urgency you can uncover about the pain point that they have, the more likely they're going to buy from you if you don't screw the discovery call up. So research is super important. Find out everything about these people. Then you're going to find 2 or 3 technical points that you would talk about during your discussion with them. And you're going to translate them into language that your grandmother can understand. Super simple. You can get AI to do that for you. Because again, you always want to tailor whatever it is that you're talking about to an audience that is non-technical. Then the third thing that you want to do is find your 3 to 5 diagnostic questions. And again, it should be tied to the research. You know about the company now, so always try and keep things where they need to be. And these questions should help you uncover more pain that they might be experiencing, and at the same time help them uncover more pain, because a lot of the time clients don't really know what problems they have. They have a surface level thing, and these diagnostic questions help uncover all the webs that are hidden behind these things. So once you have those questions, really important that you keep asking why while you're on the call. But we're not on the call yet. This is all pre-call stuff. And then finally, for your pre-call checklist, you need to define the ideal micro commitment for this proposal. And again, because you've done the research, you can actually find this quite easily, because you can see what type of person it is, you can see how they respond to certain things, but then you can also build a structured roadmap based on this pain point that you've discovered before the call. So research is the most important thing, and then attaching some form of micro commitment strategy to that is just as important. Amazing. So now we've actually on the call, we've done all our research and we did this amazing stuff before we even got on the call. But the biggest problem that we have now is that a lot of people will go in there and they will just start talking, not even from a technical perspective. They will just talk. They talk too much instead of listening. If somebody ever says, "You're such an amazing listener," they're actually not just giving you a compliment. They're showing you that you're probably the most manipulative person on the planet, because the more people listen, the more they uncover about people, about their pains, about their gains, their dreams, their desires, all of that stuff. So being a listener is an amazing superpower, because it literally, you get all this information divulged to you. And that's exactly what you want to do on this call. Let them talk. When you ask a question, don't immediately ask a follow-up question. Let them talk and talk and talk. And when they have completely exhausted that line of conversation, you might say, "Okay, well, why do you think it is that way?" And then that simple why unlocks a whole nother conversation platform. And when you do that, you come across as this super good listener, which people appreciate because, one, they love talking about themselves, but two, as a business, the more you can help them talk about their problems and get all that stuff out, it builds them clarity on the call. And then you can start asking your diagnostic questions after that. Once you've done all of the listening, then you change the conversation and you say, "Cool, well, thanks for all of that. That's really helpful. Can we shift the conversation now to my diagnostic questions? I have about 5 of them, and I just want to run through them to see if we can uncover something that we haven't already." And that sets what you're going to be doing next for the call. So that means that you're now asking for permission to talk. And they're like, "Yes, of course, let's dive into this." And then you can talk, and you can talk as much as you need to in order to uncover what you need to. Cool. So now the next step after you've been doing all of this stuff is that you need to give value where you can. So again, they've done a lot of talking. You've done a ton of listening. Now you need to give them a path, but don't give them a complete map, because if you give someone a complete map, that creates 2 problems. One, you decrease their urgency because now they have something they might be able to implement internally. But equally, if they are just doing some window shopping or secret shopping, in which case they're a competitor or just a vendor looking for your process to come and steal it from you, if you give them a complete roadmap from that perspective, then you've given away your secret sauce. So the trick is to give them a path, not a complete map. So it needs to be something super valuable, something that they can to some degree go and implement, but not something that removes their problem entirely. But what that does is, one, it shows them that you're giving something up front. So we're using reciprocity there, but also it shows them that you understand their situation, because you didn't just listen to everything. You didn't just let them talk. You didn't just then ask some really strategic questions, but you also gave them some value. And that shows three different parts of understanding their situation. And that builds massive trust. And trust is what gets people to pull the trigger and buy the thing that you're trying to sell, on top of the urgency that they have. So hopefully by now you can see for these mid-call activities why it's so important to do this. Because when you can demonstrate your thinking process, it just proves your competence. When you leave them wanting more by giving them just a piece of the roadmap, it creates desire for the next step, because everybody wants this problem to be solved. But it also prevents them from thinking that I can just do this stuff myself. Because when you're showing your expertise, you're showing your value and all of that other good stuff, why would anybody want to do this themselves when, one, they're already overburdened, but two, they've just found this person who's proven on a call that they're amazing at what they do. And that finally brings us into the after the call process, which is super simple. So did they agree to a next step with a specific time on the call? If no, what micro commitment can you propose in the follow-up? So again, if you were on the call, you wouldn't just leave the call saying, okay, cool, thanks for your time. You would ask for that micro strategy like we discussed before. And that could be anything. You could give them a simple one-pager, like here's an audit page based on our discussion. I'll give it to you after the call. Should we have a follow-up call to discuss this on Friday? That way you're saying, okay, I'm going to give you this super valuable thing that you can take a look at, and we can then discuss it on Friday. And again, that just creates this loop showing that you are super valuable. You know what you're talking about. You understand their business problems. You're giving it to them for free. And then you want to discuss it on Friday to talk about it even more. And because you did such a good job on this first call, they're most likely going to join the second call. And that's the call that you use to kind of seal the deal and progress this thing forward. And you also buy yourself a day or two to build an even larger roadmap for the organization, or find any more pain points that you can talk about. So it really is just a super simple process, as long as you systematize it. Get this into your head over and over again. And you can use AI to help you with this. Make sure you understand your business, what you're selling, who you are, what you offer, and have conversations with AI. Put them in the role of this prospective buyer and run through this kind of thing until it becomes second nature for you to talk about exactly how you help these businesses, but also to help you understand where you're going wrong on these calls. A lot of people think that they need to keep putting in the reps on these calls, and you do. It's amazing to do that. But something that works just as well is talking to AI, because you can get a transcript while talking to it. You can then ask follow-up questions. Where did I go wrong? Where did I take too long to answer? Where was I not clear enough? Where was I too technical? So once we have this implementation checklist, once you've built an amazing system, the final part to that is getting your reps in. And if you can do it in a risk-free way, where you're not getting rid of clients in the same process, why not try it with AI first? And that's it, guys. It's a super simple process. It's really just about having an amazing system for yourself, a very clear offer that everybody understands, and then getting the repetitions in and unleashing them in a way that everybody understands. You're focusing on clarity here. You're focusing on helping people solve their pain points. You're not just a salesman knocking on doors. So make sure that when you reach out to these people, when you speak to them on the phone, your main goal is to help them, to listen, and to solve their problems. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, check the videos on the screen now. I'm pretty sure they're going to help you. Or you can check out my community where I help AI consultants build their careers every single day. I'll see you guys in the next video.